I've got some bad news. Another great American tool brand is going out of business. ShopSmith Tools, which has been around for over 70 years, has recently ceased operations. This is a real shame because it's an amazing tool. The Mark V is a 5-in-1 tool which can do the work of a table saw, a lathe, a disc sander, a horizontal boring machine, and a drill press. All very useful tools. The Mark VII is similar, but can become 7 tools, including all of those things, plus an over-table shaper and an under-table router. All of that makes it an ideal tool for workshops with very little space.
This is a complete woodworking system that fits anywhere.
And there can even be other modular tools which can be added. It's a shame that they're going out of business, especially since they are an American manufacturer and they build all of their tools in a factory in Dayton, Ohio. But how did they get to this point? How did a super unique and innovative tool company making their tools in America go out of business? Well, let's talk about it. The ShopSmith tool was invented by a guy named Hans Goldschmidt, and it hit the market in the late 1940s. It was the perfect tool for all of the guys who were returning home from World War II and who were now building their homes, because they could do so much with a single tool. And again, it didn't take up a lot of space. So there was a lot of demand for this new ShopSmith tool. And sales were okay for a while. The company never really did take off in the same way that other tool companies did, companies like Black & Decker or Milwaukee, but they did okay for the first decade or so. But then they ran into some trouble. In 1966, they ceased operations, left behind all of their equipment, and abandoned all of their outstanding orders. That went on until 1972, when a local stockbroker discovered the idle plant and started it up again. The new company kept making tools for years, improving on their designs and releasing new models. But things got tough again, and in 2009, they declared bankruptcy. But this time they were able to reorganize and stay in business. And then in 2023, they reorganized again into the limited partnership that owns them today. Then a few weeks ago, this showed up on their website. And as of September 2025, they are ceasing operations and looking for a buyer. Here's the thing, the tool is really amazing and there's a lot of people who really love it. It really has a cult following. In fact, I want to hear from you. Have you ever used it? Do you enjoy the ShopSmith? Do you find all of its features useful? If you've never used it, is it something that you see value in? Would you like to try it out? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. So like I say, the tool is amazing and a lot of people really love it, but there are a few problems. And I think that some of these problems get to the crux as to why they keep going in and back out of business. Well, before we get into that, I want to tell you about this video's sponsor, Mando. Mando is the deodorant made for regular guys, but that doesn't mean that there's anything ordinary about it. It's super effective and lasts all day, and that's what I really like the most. I forget that I'm even wearing it because it blocks sweat and odors like a champ. They also have some great scents, things like bourbon leather. But it isn't too strong and won't clear a room like some other deodorants.
One a little heavy on the pine tree perfume there, kid.
Another great thing is the variety of products that they have. They've got sticks and lotions and sprays and even wipes. It all works because the active ingredient prevents bacteria from even creating odors in the first place. But it's also gentle enough to be anything you need for anywhere you need it, even down below. So if you've been looking for a better deodorant, check out Mando using the link in the description or the QR code on the screen. And if you use my code at checkout, Dave5, you'll get $5 off the Mando starter pack for new customers. It's a great deal. So a big thanks to Mando for sponsoring the video, and again, be sure to check them out. Your pits and your bits will thank you. Now back to the video. So as I was saying, ShopSmith has been in and out of business many times over its long history, and I think that there's some very specific reasons why. The first thing is that it's really kind of a novelty tool, and it kind of reminds me of the saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
I'm kind of a jack of all trades, if you will.
Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, most woodworking tools are just a motor spinning a blade of some kind or a bit or a sander, and so to take advantage of that motion with one tool is really efficient. But the Mark V costs almost $4,000, and the Mark VII costs almost $6,000. That is a lot of money to spend on a tool, even if it's a really versatile tool. For that same price, I could buy an adequate lathe, drill press, sander, and table saw and still have some money left over. In fact, one of the tools that I have my eyes on right now is a SawStop cabinet saw. Now, I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet because it costs $3,000, but if I did, for the price of the ShopSmith Mark V, I would have an amazing, versatile table saw and still have $1,000 to spend to get all of the other tools. And that's totally doable. Also, from my perspective, I feel like a dedicated tool probably just works better as a standalone than a modular tool like a ShopSmith. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe there are things that the ShopSmith can do that I just don't understand. But as I see it, the only major use for it, or the only major feature that it really has, is the fact that it can save space. Again, that isn't to say that it isn't well made or that it's a waste of money, but I just can't see it gaining a really large appeal at that cost. But that's kind of the biggest problem, isn't it? It's an American manufacturer, perhaps the last truly American power tool manufacturer, and maybe it would be a lot cheaper if you manufactured overseas, but what would you lose from doing that? Now, we as a country have sent a lot of our tool manufacturing overseas for the past 30 to 40 years, and there's a huge dearth today of tool companies in the US. And honestly, that puts us at risk. It makes us reliant on other countries that could jeopardize our future growth and security. So it's a shame to me to see another American tool company like this go under. So what's going to happen next? Well, they could be saved again, as they have been, a few times in the past, or they may file bankruptcy and auction off all of their equipment. Maybe they find a buyer for their brand name, and then we see a bunch of ShopSmith branded tools popping up here and there in the next couple of years. Who knows? Here's the thing though, the value of a company is based on a few different things. First is their sales and their future revenue. Now, this is a private company, so I can't say for certain what their revenue is or what their sales are, but they wouldn't be going out of business if they weren't losing money. So there is not likely to be a whole lot of value there. So the next thing to look at is the value of their assets. Well, they certainly have equipment and they have inventory, and that all has value. But in looking at some of the tours that some people have done at the factory, some of their equipment looks really old and outdated. The cost of fixing up that equipment or updating that equipment would definitely have to be factored into any purchase price that anyone would offer. Now, like I said, their brand is certainly valuable, but I'm sure that they're not interested in just selling their brand and nothing else. I think they're really trying to get value for the company, but I think ultimately they're really trying to keep the company alive and keep it manufacturing. Now, here's the thing. Any potential buyer, anyone who has the kind of money that you would have to spend to purchase the company and to really fix it up, to invest in it, to get the machinery you need, they're going to have to look at the business and see a way that they can increase sales. They're going to have to look at the business and see a way that they can reduce costs or find efficiencies. And if that's not possible, then no one is likely to step up and take it over. It could be just a bad investment. So sadly, I think that ShopSmith may be going away for good this time. I think that the environment today has really soured for this type of domestic manufacturer. When employment costs are increasing, insurance costs are going through the roof, and raw materials are more expensive than ever before due to tariffs and the economy and other things, I just don't see a way forward for a company like this without some huge investments. And again, if the sales aren't there, the revenue's not there, it probably just is not enough there to make it worth it. And that is a huge problem, and it's something that I've talked a lot about on this channel. We have got companies like Craftsman who tried to reshore manufacturing to the US and ultimately failed. And we have China that has become a manufacturing powerhouse, while we here in the US have lost nearly all of our machinists and our tooling engineers and a ton of our blue collar workers, the people who really know how to do stuff. And the blue collar workers that are left are getting older and they're nearing the point of retirement and they're not being replaced. This is a huge problem that goes way beyond just ShopSmith. We need to make some huge changes in this country. Now, when I was a kid, I was taught that college was the only way to get ahead in life, and it worked out for me okay. But I just don't think that this is true in every case anymore. When I look at my kids, do I tell them to go to college when there's huge, costs associated with that, when you're not guaranteed to even get a good job when you get out, we need to take a second look at blue collar work. I mean, first of all, blue collar workers today can make really good money, more than a lot of college educated professionals even. And we need to stop looking down on people who work with their hands for a living and realize that the world around us has changed. We need to add more vocational training. We need to make it easier for kids who maybe don't want to go to college or don't see that as the path that they want to take. We need to make it easier for them to step into these jobs that we also need, these jobs that pay good money. That's something that we need to look at, focus on, and invest in, something we haven't been doing for the past 20 plus years. Sadly, though, it's all too little too late for ShopSmith, in my opinion. I do wish them the best, and I do hope that they can salvage their business, but honestly, in this economy, in this environment, I really don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to do that. We also need to rethink manufacturing in this country. We can't do it like we've always done it. We can't have a factory and just have a bunch of people in there, working the way we always have. We've got to move more towards automation. We've got to have more efficiency. That's the only way we're going to be able to compete with China. And we have to kind of change the paradigm. We have to change the way we think about manufacturing. And I actually recently spent some time at a company that is rethinking American manufacturing. It's this really amazing company called Oshcut. And I've got a video coming out where I toured their facility, talked with their CEO, and really tried to understand their business model, their successful business model. And it could really be a model for other companies and showing how we can return manufacturing to the US and compete with China on a different level. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. That video is going to be coming out very soon, and it's going to be really, really interesting. So definitely come back and check that out. Also hit that like button. I've got a video here about the Craftsman attempt to reshore American manufacturing and how that went. I've got other videos that talk about some of the problems that we have in American manufacturing, how we can make those changes. So definitely be sure to subscribe, check out these other videos, and I'll see you in the next one.